Thanks, Laskin Corla. On Monday, the Israeli Foreign Minister met with EU representatives. What he did was he showed a video from a few years ago about plans to build an artificial island off Gaza where basically the Palestinians could be put. It caused eyebrows to be raised even amongst those who are not very clear in terms of their opposition to the genocide that is currently taking place. But if you want a clear signal that Israel is intending to continue with the war, with the massacre, with the onslaught, with the genocide, there you have it. But let's be clear, Israel could not be doing what they're doing without the support of the US administration. They get about $4 billion a year in military aid, and this year the Biden administration has proposed an extra $14.5 billion. Joe Biden recently told a fundraiser that, quote, "We're not going to do a damn thing other than to protect Israel." Not a single thing. Taoiseach, as long as Joe Biden supports this genocide, you should not be going to the White House on St. Patrick's Day. You should not be giving him a bowl of shamrock. Instead, we should send a signal around the world that Ireland stands with Palestine. We are appalled at what is happening, and we're opposed to the continuing US support of it.
There were no conclusions agreed on Gaza for a very simple reason. The majority of EU member states, including Ireland, wanted a specific call for a ceasefire. That was blocked by a minority of states who take the view that a call for a ceasefire would not be adhered to by Hamas and would restrict Israel in anti-terrorist activities. We don't agree with that assessment, but that is the reason that they gave. In relation to Palestine, just want to reaffirm the government's firm support for Palestinian statehood. It's not a gift to be given by Israel. It's a right that the people of Palestine have to a secure homeland, and we need to redouble our efforts at all levels to make sure that that happens. We also respect Israel's right to defend itself, not just against other countries that attack it, but also terrorist organisations supported by other countries which attack it. However, the response in Gaza has been disproportionate in our view and is in breach of international humanitarian law. On the Genocide Convention, again, I want to restate that the government supports the work of the ICJ and the ICC. We recognise their judgments, we provide funding, and they have a very important role to play when it comes to accountability and deterrence. However, I think we have to be clear and honest with people on this. The ICJ didn't stop the war in Ukraine and won't be able to stop the war in Gaza. I'm not aware of any war that has ever been stopped by a court order. The way wars end is one of three ways: military victory by one side over the other, an armistice, a frozen conflict like Korea, or a political and diplomatic settlement. And that's where we're putting our efforts, into a political and diplomatic settlement. A ceasefire, the humanitarian ceasefire, to allow aid to get in, the killing to stop, the hostages to be released, followed by a permanent ceasefire, which would involve Hamas fighters and leaders leaving Gaza, allowing a new Palestinian Authority, or rather the Palestinian Authority, to take over Gaza with international support, then leading to talks, not just on a two-state solution, but also on wider mutual security for the region. And if we're serious about stopping this conflict and ending this 75-year cycle of violence and terrorism, that has to be our priority. But of course we will take our role seriously under the various international conventions. The Attorney General will be in The Hague on the 22nd of February in person to give Ireland's intervention in relation to an ICJ case on the occupation of Palestine, and we will consider South Africa's case when they lodge it. They haven't yet, and that's exactly the approach that we took in relation to the Russia and Ukraine case. On the EU directive on violence against women, I've taken interest in this. I've spoken to Frances Fitzgerald about it, who's the rapporteur, and also Minister McEntee, and Ireland believes that rape should be based on consent, not on force. Other countries have different views on that. We want to make sure anything that's agreed doesn't water down our own laws in any way, because it's about consent, not about force, in our view. There is a risk now that there won't be an EU directive at all, because it has to get through in the next couple of weeks. And I think the most important thing is that we get the directive through. I'm a great believer in incremental progress. We mightn't get everything we want in it, but if we can get our first EU directive on this issue passed and through, then we can build on it into the future. And finally, just in relation to the US administration, I've shared my views with the US ambassador on the situation in the Middle East and other members of the administration. I've had the chance to meet casually at international meetings in the past couple of weeks, and I look forward to have the opportunity to discuss it with President Biden in March, should I be invited to attend the White House, which I haven't been yet.